No one argued at first. The paper lay flat on the desk, yellowed, cracked at the edges, stamped and re-stamped again across centuries. The date was wrong. Not off by years, not off by decades, off by hundreds. The clerk stared at it longer than protocol allowed, long enough for silence to become uncomfortable, long enough for the room to feel smaller. 5 centuries. That was the gap between the birth date on the document and the present moment. 500 years. The woman standing across the desk did not react. She never did. She stood barely 4 feet tall, still, wrapped in layers that looked older than the building itself. Her face was not described in reports. No one ever described it. They always stopped at the same word: unsettling. Not because it was monstrous, not because it was deformed, because it looked unfinished. As if time had kept moving and forgotten to take her with it. The clerk cleared his throat. The sound echoed too loudly. He asked for confirmation, then asked again. The woman said nothing. She never spoke first. She waited. That was always noted too. The file did not start here. It never did. It began with a census entry, written by hand, before electricity, before photography, before birth certificates were standardized. A single line. Height, 4 feet. Sex, female. Age, unknown. Then a margin note. Appears unchanged from previous count. The census taker at the time had assumed an error. So had the next one, and the one after that. Errors pile up when no one wants to say the impossible out loud. She appeared again during a port inspection. Ships unloaded goods. People were counted. Names were written down. Her name was written too. Spelled 3 different ways. Corrected twice, never removed. The inspector had written, "Claims to have arrived before my grandfather was born." The ink had faded. The sentence had not. There were no photographs from the earliest years, just sketches, always small, always standing apart, always facing forward. The artists never shaded the eyes. By the time cameras existed, she avoided them. Or perhaps they avoided her. One photograph survived anyway, taken accidentally, caught at the edge of a frame. Half-shadowed. The archivist who discovered it noted something strange. Everyone else in the image showed motion blur, people shifting, blinking, breathing. She did not. She looked placed, as if the camera had adjusted itself around her. Doctors would later request examinations, not out of care, out of necessity. They measured her bones. They expected brittleness, decay, micro-fractures. They found density, more than expected, more than normal. They tested blood. The results were copied, then copied again. No one signed the final page. She never aged the way others did. No childhood progression, no middle years, no visible decline. Just permanence. That frightened people more than death ever could. During wars, she disappeared. During plagues, she remained. Records showed entire neighborhoods erased, houses burned, churches emptied. Her residence line stayed intact. Same address, different street names. By the 3rd century of documentation, the language changed. Not official language, personal notes. A clerk wrote, "I think she has always been here." Another added years later, "My father remembers her from when he was a child." Then one sentence, underlined twice, "She has not grown older since I was young." No authority wanted ownership of the truth. If she was real, someone had to explain her. If she wasn't, someone had failed for centuries. So she remained, processed, filed, stamped, moved quietly from ledger to ledger. The first time panic surfaced was when a digital system rejected her age entirely. The computer would not save the entry. An error message flashed. Invalid date range. The technician tried again. Same result. He overrode the system manually, then printed the page. Paper, at least, did not argue. The question no one asked out loud was simple. If she had lived 5 centuries, what had she seen? That question would not stay buried. Not anymore. Because a journalist noticed something wrong with the timestamps. Because a historian cross-referenced parish records. Because a video surfaced, 30 seconds long, grainy, unstable, showing a woman being escorted across a courtyard, small, slow, and unchanged from the sketches. The comments section exploded, not with disbelief, with recognition. People posted images, old photographs, family albums, paintings, circling the same figure, always in the background, always watching. She did not deny it. She did not confirm it. She did what she had always done. She waited, and for the first time in 5 centuries, the world leaned in. They tried to anchor her to a timeline. That was the first mistake. Historians pulled maps. Clerks pulled ledgers. Archivists pulled gloves tight over shaking hands. They laid everything out. Centuries of paper. Ink that changed color as it aged. Stamps that belonged to empires that no longer existed. Every system had a beginning. She didn't. The earliest church record was written in a hand so old it slanted oddly, like the writer wasn't yet used to the alphabet. A baptism list. Names followed names. Infants, infants, infants. Then one line stood apart. Not under children, not under adults. Just written in the margin. Height noted, age left blank. A single word beside it. Present. They assumed translation issues, so they brought linguists. They traced dialect shifts, regional spellings, priestly shorthand. The word never changed meaning. Not once. Present. Census documents told the same quiet story. She appeared. She stayed. She did not progress. Children born near her grew up, had children, died. She remained the same height, the same notation. Unmarried, no offspring, no change. A professor tried to frame it scientifically. Longevity anomalies existed, rare disorders, growth conditions. But disorders deteriorate. They leave marks. She had none. Her bones did not show childhood plates closing. They didn't show age erosion either. They showed equilibrium, as if her body had stopped negotiating with time. Someone suggested fraud, a lineage of women using the same identity, a relay across generations. It sounded reasonable until they compared fingerprints, early ink impressions, later scans, matched perfectly. The room went quiet after that. Not loud silence, the kind that makes people sit straighter, the kind that makes breathing sound disrespectful. They began interviewing people who had known her, or claimed to. An elderly woman in a coastal town said she remembered her as a child, not as an adult remembering a child, as a child remembering her. Same posture, same stillness. She remembered being warned. "Don't stare," her mother had whispered. "She's been here longer than the street." A dockworker's grandson produced a letter, written during a labor strike 2 centuries earlier. The writer complained about hunger, about cold nights, then a line almost thrown away. "The small woman still stands by the warehouse every dawn. She never eats with us." Medical records surfaced next, sparse, reluctant. Doctors had examined her only when required by law. Each time, they wrote less. At first, detailed observations. Later, only measurements. Finally, refusals. One physician wrote, "No pathology to treat, no decline to arrest. Examination serves no purpose." She never protested. Never consented enthusiastically either. She simply stood, where she was told, sat when asked, left when dismissed. Theories grew louder: cult figure, immortal, hoax, curse. She ignored them all. Then the video analysis began. Frame by frame, they slowed her movements, counted blinks, measured gait. The data showed something subtle. She moved economically. No wasted motion, no adjustment. Like someone who had learned exactly how much effort existence required and never spent more. One analyst noticed something else. In crowds, people unconsciously shifted around her, not away, around, as if their bodies registered her before their minds did. The question changed. Not how long had she lived, but why hadn't she left? Someone finally asked her, not during an interview, not on camera. Just a quiet question, after paperwork. Do you know how old you are? She looked at the wall behind him, waited, then answered, I know how long I've stayed. That sentence went unrecorded, but it spread anyway. They tried to place her origin, birthplace, family, nothing held. Records before her appearance were empty, as if she stepped into history fully formed. A medieval trade route ledger listed her among supplies, not people, just one line. Small woman, paid in shelter, no wage, no name. During a famine, she appeared in relief roles. She never took grain, only water, and stayed. The most disturbing pattern came last. Disasters, fires, floods, uprisings. She was always there before, not causing, not warning, just present, then gone, then present again, after. A sociologist wrote, she does not change with the world. The world rearranges around her. The paper was never published. Authorities debated what to do. Ignore her, protect her, contain her. But she wasn't breaking laws. She wasn't asking for anything. She existed within margins that law never anticipated. Then came the request. A simple one. She wanted access, not to the public, to the archives, to the oldest room, where the first records were kept. The request stalled. Committees formed. Ethics boards argued. While they delayed, she waited. She always did. And somewhere deep in those shelves, something waited too. Something written by someone who had seen her arrive. The archive room had no sign, no label, no plaque, no warning. Just a door at the end of a corridor that people stopped walking down without realizing why. Even seasoned archivists admitted it. Their feet slowed there. Not fear, reluctance. The door hadn't been opened in decades, not because it was forbidden, because nothing inside had ever been requested. Until now. When permission finally came through, it arrived with conditions. No recording equipment, no photography, only 3 staff present, and her. She entered first, not escorted, not watched. She simply stepped inside, like someone returning a library book overdue by centuries. The room smelled different. Not dust, time, leather bindings that had breathed damp air and smoke and salt, paper thick as cloth, ink pressed deep by hands that no longer had names. The oldest room didn't catalogue history, it remembered it. She moved slowly between shelves. Her fingers didn't touch anything. She didn't need to. She stopped, turned, nodded once. There, she said. They followed her gaze to a shelf so low it nearly touched the floor. A collection, bound in dark hide. No title on the spine. No catalogue number. Just scratches, like tally marks. The head archivist hesitated. Rules said gloves, but she shook her head. No, she said softly. He used bare hands. The book resisted opening. Not stiff, heavy, as if the pages didn't want to be separated. When they finally parted, the room seemed to exhale. The first page wasn't a beginning. It was a warning. If you are reading this, she has not left. The handwriting changed throughout the book. Different centuries, different languages, but the subject never changed. Her. The earliest entry described a winter so long the sea froze, a settlement starving, a small figure appearing at the edge of the camp, not asking, not begging, standing. The writer noted her height, then crossed it out, then wrote, "She is as tall as she ever will be." Pages followed, monks, sailors, midwives, officials, each describing her presence during turning points, plagues, treaties, executions that never named her, but mentioned a watcher. One entry was written in shaking ink, a man who claimed he tried to follow her. "She walks where roads have not decided to exist." He never wrote again. A later section included sketches. Crude at first, then precise. Always the same proportions, always the same eyes. Too old, too young. Someone had tried to classify her. Saint, demon, sign, all crossed out. Then the tone changed. The entries became fearful. Not of her, of what she represented. Empires rise believing they will outlast her. They do not. One ruler ordered her arrested. The record ended mid-sentence. The next page was written by another hand. There was no cell she would stay in. She watched silently as they read. Not anxious, not proud. Patient. An archivist finally asked the question no one else could. "Why didn't you leave?" She didn't answer immediately. She walked to the far wall, to a map drawn before continents were named. She pointed. "Because it started there," she said. The map showed nothing special, just coastline, just water, just a small mark. She spoke again. "They asked me to stay." "Who?" someone whispered. She smiled, not kindly, not cruelly, tiredly. "The ones who couldn't." Another entry explained it, written in a language no longer spoken, translated slowly, painfully. When the world learned how to forget, someone had to remember. She was chosen because she could endure watching. Not ruling, not stopping, only witnessing. The room felt colder after that. The final pages were recent. Unsettlingly so. Written in modern ink. Different hands. All ending the same way. She is still here. So the story is not finished. The archivist closed the book, hands trembling. "This should never have been hidden," he said. She corrected him gently. "It wasn't hidden," she said. "It was waiting." They asked her what would happen next. She looked toward the door, toward the corridor, toward the world outside that never noticed her unless reminded. "That depends," she said, "on whether you listen." Outside, the city moved, unaware, unchanged, for now. Because once a witness is seen, history starts behaving differently. The first change wasn't loud. It never is. It was a missing sentence. A historian in Lisbon went to quote a well-known treaty and found a line no one remembered writing. A margin note, in a different ink, in a different hand. She stood at the harbor that day. The historian laughed it off, until he checked 3 other copies. Same note, same handwriting. Then came the footage. Not viral at first, just strange. A security camera in a subway station captured a figure no taller than a child standing still while thousands rushed past. Timestamp, accurate. Image quality, perfect. But the figure never blurred, not once. Someone zoomed in, then stopped, because the eyes were looking straight at the camera. Forums lit up. Not with panic, with recognition. People began posting old photos, family albums, paintings, gravestones. Always the same question. Who is this? The oldest woman in the world. The phrase spread before anyone could stop it. But that wasn't what unsettled experts. It was the consistency. Same height, same posture, same expression. Across centuries, across continents. Governments notice next, quietly. They always do. A task force formed without a name. Members chosen not for rank, but for discretion. They studied timelines, wars, collapses, breakthroughs. She appeared before all of them, never after. One analyst whispered what no one wanted to say. "She's not predicting history," he said. "She's anchoring it." Meanwhile, she walked. Cities, villages, ports. She never hid. She never announced herself. People noticed her the way you notice a clock ticking when the room goes silent. Children saw her first. They always do. They pointed. "She's small," they said. "She looks old. She looks sad." Parents pulled them away. Adults stared longer than they meant to. Some felt comfort. Others felt dread without knowing why. A journalist finally found her. Not through research, through exhaustion. After months of chasing shadows, he sat on a bench and said aloud, "If you're real, I'm tired." She sat beside him. "You're late," she said. He didn't scream, didn't run, just stared. "How old are you?" he asked. She considered the question like a language she no longer spoke. "Old enough," she said, "to know that age isn't what frightens people." "Then what does?" he whispered. She looked at him. At the city. At the sky heavy with stories. "Continuity," she said. "The idea that something survives every ending." The interview never aired, not because it was censored, because no network could agree on how to frame it. Human interest, threat assessment, mythology, none fit. Rumors turned to movements. Some worshipped her. She ignored them. Some blamed her. She didn't argue. Some begged her to change things. That was when her expression hardened. "I was never meant to interfere," she said once firmly. "Only to remain." And that was when the fractures began. History doesn't like being watched too closely. Records started contradicting themselves. Dates shifted by days. Names appeared where they never had. Not errors, corrections. Libraries reported shelves rearranging overnight. Monuments revealed inscriptions beneath newer stone. Languages regained lost words, all pointing to moments people had chosen to forget. Panic followed. Not loud, administrative. Governments called it instability. Markets called it uncertainty. People called it unease. The task force reached a conclusion. If she was a witness, then witnesses could testify. A plan formed. They would ask her to speak. Publicly. Once. To explain everything. To settle history. She heard the proposal before it reached her. She always did. And for the first time in centuries, she hesitated. Because once a witness speaks, they stop being neutral. She stood at the edge of a crowd, gathering without knowing why. Microphones ready, cameras live, eyes waiting. She looked very small, 4 feet tall, 5 centuries heavy. She closed her eyes, and history held its breath. She didn't step onto the stage. The stage came to her. Microphones leaned forward. Cameras adjusted without instruction. The crowd fell quiet, the way rooms do when something irreversible is about to happen. She stood still, 4 feet tall, hands folded, waiting for the noise to finish, embarrassing itself. "I won't explain everything," she said. Her voice was calm. Not old, not young, just practiced. "I never have." Somewhere in the crowd, someone cried, not loudly, just once. "I was not made to be understood," she continued. "I was made to remain." No one interrupted. Not even the officials. They sensed it. This wasn't a speech. It was a boundary. "I have watched empires rise," she said, "and I have watched them beg to be remembered." She paused. "Both fail." Screens behind her flickered, not with images, with dates, moments, events no one had planned to see together. A famine that followed a celebration. A war that began with applause. A cure delayed because prophet needed time. No commentary, just alignment. "I don't cause these things," she said. "I stand where they happen." She looked at the crowd, at the cameras, at the future watching from its couches. "You forget faster every century," she said. "That is why I'm still here." Someone shouted a question. She didn't answer it. She answered the silence underneath it. "You call me the oldest woman," she said. "That's easier than calling me a mirror." The task force exchanged glances. This wasn't control. This was exposure. "I was small, so I could be overlooked," she said. "I was quiet, so I could hear everything." A breath. Measured. Heavy. "I was made this way, so no one would think to destroy me." A screen glitched, then stabilized, then showed something no one expected. A live feed of the crowd, from above. Decades ago, same street, same arrangement, different clothes, same faces, younger. Gasps rippled, not fear, recognition. "You've all been here before," she said. "Just not together." The journalist from the bench was watching from the edge. He wasn't recording, he was remembering. "History doesn't repeat," she said. "It waits." She stepped back. Not dramatically, just enough. "I will not answer questions," she said. "Because answers end things." She looked tired. For the first time. "What happens now?" someone asked. She considered it, then spoke. "Now," she said, "you live knowing you are seen." The feed cut. Not black, white. No closing statement, no applause, no panic, just a long, unfamiliar quiet. In the days that followed, the world didn't end. It adjusted, slowly, uneasily. Some monuments were taken down, others were left standing, newly ashamed. Textbooks changed tone, not content, tone. People argued less about what happened, more about who had been there when it did. And her? She walked again, through markets, through stations, through time. Children still noticed her first. They waved. Sometimes she waved back. She never grew taller, never grew louder, never stopped. And now, when history shifts, when a record feels heavier than it should, when a silence lasts a second too long, people remember. The watcher was there, and this time, they knew it.